real ninja.
Hi, guys. Oh no, I'm about to turn you around.
Yeah, everyone's getting premature on the high.
Yeah. Nikki and Kirsten here for Sunday Soul Sessions. I just wanted to jump on quickly and show you all. We are all down here at Miss Bliss in Brisbane, having our Brisbane Conscious Business Babes Who Brunch. Say hi. Hi, ladies. Wave to the camera. All right, let's get into this. We have the gorgeous Kirsten on today, and we are going to be chatting, like I said, about digital detoxing and what has come up for her. So, Kirsten found herself slipping into a bit of a comparison game on the social media front, and really felt called that she was finding that was really affecting how she was feeling, and decided that she really needed to detox from it and get away from it, just to kind of reconnect with herself and start building her inner worth back up a bit, away from all the noise.
Yeah.
So hi.
Hello.
So lovely to see you.
I know.
And that we're in person.
We're in the cafe, like at the back.
Why not?
Make it work.
Yeah, exactly. So, my love, I would love for you to share with whoever is watching what kind of impact this whole comparison was having on you, and making that decision to really kind of step away from social media, and how that's affected your life now, and what you noticed coming up. Like so much stuff that we're going to talk about. But yeah, let's start with what it was initially. Bye. Okay, awesome. Lovely to see you. No worries. Bye.
So basically I had sort of been toying with the idea for a little while, because there was a few weeks there where I was just like noticing that I was investing a lot more energy in what everybody else was doing rather than creating anything for myself. And I noticed that it was really starting to impact actually expressing any creativity, because I was looking at what everyone else was saying, and I was like, oh, they've said that better than me, or oh, they already shared that message, maybe there's no point in me sharing my message because I was going to say something like that and now it's already been said. I was getting into that real negative sort of scarcity mindset around my messaging, and then it was almost creating a bit of a distortion as well, because I was like, now I don't even really know what I want to say, because there's just like so much messaging online, and I was, getting so absorbed into it and spending so much time on there, and almost using it as because I have my business online, I need to be on there and I need to be doing this, and it's almost like a feeling of like networking. It's like compulsive networking.
Yeah.
And it was like, that feeling of like, if I'm not on there, if I'm not supporting, if I'm not showing up, if I'm not doing this, if I'm not doing that, then therefore I don't have a successful business, or I'm going to miss out. It was like FOMO as well. So I put it off for a little while, but I was just noticing that the call to step away was getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And like I said, it was just really so much, like, to me, noise. Like, there was just so much noise, and I was just overwhelmed by that, because I just felt like I couldn't get clear on what I wanted to say. I couldn't get clear on my message, and I felt like I wanted to take a bit of a shift in my business, but I couldn't really have the space to be able to understand what that was. I felt without taking that break offline, I really needed to go inwards and create the space and step away from online and everybody else's messaging and what everyone else is up to and the way that they were showing up in the world, to be able to find that for myself. And I do have a relatively new relationship. I have a partner that's moved over here as well, and I'd just been like really on the go when he first came back here as well. And so there was just some things that were going on in my life that I was like, I really need space to just breathe and, redefine my direction and what I want to do, and my message and my relationship and with myself. And also just give space for my partner and I to sort of balance that out, because, he'd moved over here from overseas as well. So, I just needed space, basically. And so it was a bit daunting to do it, to be honest. Like I said, I put it off for weeks. And I can just
can I just say, I can totally relate with that, like that whole, and if you are not clear on who you are, clear on your message, it is so easy, and I'm sure everyone has been like susceptible to this and experienced some level of this, where you kind of fall into that rabbit hole of comparing, of going, oh fuck, she's doing it so much better, or this person's so much further ahead than me. And that was a massive thing for me, was looking at people in business who were where I wanted to be, and I'm like, well, why is she there or he there and I'm not there yet, and just really falling into that comparison trap.
And I think one thing I'd noticed as well across this period, it wasn't just social media, but I'd fallen off my rituals as well, and my morning routines, and all these little things that keep you in a positive mindset. And I think if you don't have a really strong mindset and success habits and those rituals and things, like, you're more susceptible to fall into that comparison trap, because it can actually be really challenging to be surrounded by your peers or your mentors all day, every day. And it's almost like to the point where you're like, is the market really that saturated? Like, am I actually going to be able to cut through this noise? Am I going to make a difference? It can sometimes, like, you can get to that place where you're like, maybe I just give all this away because I don't even know, like, if they're all doing this, am I even needed? Like, it was like that sort of conversation was sort of starting to come through.
Forgetting that we're all needed.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's not going to be a lack of light that's needed in the world. So, but it can feel like that when you're online, and in that sort of, like, we all joke about we want to unplug from the matrix, but then we're in this little mini matrix inside the matrix. So it's like we're just constantly in this little world. And I think that was one of the first things that sort of came through to me was initially it was like when I first deleted all the apps off my phone, I was hit with this immediate wave. I actually started to cry because I was like, it was just kind of shocking. So I was like, I've failed. Like, that was the initial thing that came through, was I failed. Why does nobody else seemingly need a break? Why are all these other people able to show up online all day, every day, and not be as impacted as I am by this? And it was like that.
That's another thing about social media. Hi Ken, how you going? Is that
hello?
You only get to see the shiny. You only get to see the good stuff. You don't know what's really going on behind closed doors, or what people are actually dealing with as well.
Yeah. So I just felt like I didn't have what it takes compared to everybody else if I had needed to take a break. I saw taking a break as a sign of failure, and it was really hard for me to sort of grapple with that, and I just got really upset. For that first afternoon I was quite upset, and the second two things that I sort of noticed from there was how many times I compulsively reached for my phone. And when there's nothing there, you're like, oh, okay. And then it was like, oh, okay, oh. And it was just noticing how often that I went for the phone, and then it was about noticing why I was reaching for the phone. I was avoiding something. I was bored. I didn't want to, do something at work, or, something came up and I was like, oh, just scroll for a little bit. But when it's not there, you're like, oh shit, okay, now I actually have to just face off and do that task. Now I actually have to just do that piece of work. Now I actually have to be with that emotion. And it was just interesting, seeing how much that distraction came into play. And that's why actually I took that a little bit deeper. I then went off coffee for that time as well. And then I also went on a 3-day soup cleanse as well, because I was so curious to see if I stripped away more of my vices and distractions, what came through from that place. And it was, so
it was like
super
bang,
interesting.
Bang, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it, I'm going to go all in.
So it was just really interesting, I think, to see how much we want to fill every single moment of space, and how much that we're not really willing to just be and sit with what comes up. It's like we're built and designed in a world to just keep us constantly distracted and filling every gap with something to avoid being, really. And I think that was the third thing that really came through straight away, was when I had deleted all the apps of my phone, I realised how much I really connected with people through social messaging app, through direct message, Facebook Messenger. So when they were gone, my immediate reaction was, oh shit.
I've got no friends.
I was like, who? It was like an actual real scary thing. I was like, who are my people? Who do I know offline? Whose number do I have? Who do I spend time with? When was the last time I spent time with anyone in a non-networking business sort of capacity, where the intent was purely just social or soul catch-ups? And it was just really eye-opening, I think, to see how, maybe my relationships had suffered through the illusion of being so connected, because you're constantly messaging and hitting off DMs and things like that. So it was just interesting to see how much that almost gives you the false sense of being connected, when you actually come offline and actually set up all these catch-ups with people that I hadn't seen in a while, and just really started to nourish my soul through that in-person time, which can't be replaced through voice notes and direct message. And we don't even really pick up the phone anymore, because we just send a couple of voice notes off, and
I'm so
I've
guilty of
spoken
that.
to them.
But it's funny, because you hear people say, never in our lives have we been so connected yet so disconnected, and it's so true. And not just with people around us, with ourselves. Like I know for me, there's been times massively in the past where I've sought validation through social media and, you know, putting up a post, how many likes have I got, how much engagement have I got, and I'm still guilty of that now, like that still happens. And having that kind of relying that heavily on external validation and not having that connection with self is not a good thing.
No.
Like for anybody, it's so important to be really connected with who you are and know who you are, that core value, so that whole comparison stuff and kind of falling into that trap is less likely to happen, I guess.
And I was speaking to Kate Shiffey-Gray, and she put it in perspective for me as well, is when we are online, it's so easy to get that external validation, and that lack of it, you know, sort of like that who am I without this, because we're so used to that, or the ego is so used to getting that constant external validation to make up its identity and that reassurance of who it is. So when we don't have that, it's almost like that fear and that uncertainty, because it's like, well, who am I if I don't have people telling me who I am all the time, or reaffirming that what I'm doing is enough. And you know, that was actually one of the most interesting things that I found in coming back online, was that I immediately wanted to go into that, you know, okay, I'm going to hustle, I'm going to post, I'm going to, you know, start like showing up online and all of those sort of things. And it was probably from a place of the fact that I had felt like that part of my identity had been missing while I was away, because I had been so used to being part of me is like that online community persona, like, you know, all of those sort of things. So I was so used to having that aspect of myself, that was my automatic reaction. It was like almost like, oh yay, like
I'm back, I can start.
like but yeah, it was actually, I thought it was going to be hard to stay off. It was actually really hard to come back on.
So how long did you actually do off?
So 3 weeks total radio silence. I did not look at anything. I came back on one day to check my direct messages and all of that sort of stuff, which took me 2 hours to respond to, and it wasn't even that many, but that was an eye-opening in itself. Because like if I had been back and forth this whole time, like it shows you how much time is really spent. And then I did one post, and then I was sort of like, no, actually I'm not ready to come back yet, so I'm just going to take another week and just sort of sit with what had really shown up in that time as well.
And I've noticed even since you've come back on that your posting is really, it seems really intentional, it seems really like just, it feels like you're just kind of showing up when you feel is right to show up,
there's
rather
a message to be shared, rather than, you know, trying to beat the algorithm and all these things that people are sort of, you know, sharing all the time. It's like a bit about that consistency, and that's great, but you know, it's also about authenticity. I think is like one of my highest values. So showing up when I feel like there's a message to come through, and not worrying about that, just posting it when, you know, I posted twice on Friday, and then I haven't posted since. So I sort of like whenever it comes through.
And I'm so guilty. Like I was like something will come up and I want to share it, and I'll be like, oh no, don't share it now, because you don't know if your people are online. And it's like, fuck, if something comes up for you, share it in that moment, because that's true, it's authentic, it's real.
And I think as well, like me, like even on Friday, I was like, oh, maybe I should save this post for another day.
Because I've already done one today.
Yeah, because I've already done one. And then I was like, well, no, because that's, you know, reaffirming to yourself that creativity is limited. And that, you know, it's like almost like a scarcity conversation, like, you know, I'm not going to have anything to say tomorrow, so I should save it for then, you know. It's just like,
oh my god, I've never thought of it like that.
Being in more of a state, I think, of abundance, that the message will come through when it's meant to, and that the right people will see it, and that it doesn't really matter about, you know, that. So I think, you know, for me, it was really, I think, like the biggest thing, like when I sort of stopped and had those 3 weeks, particularly radio silence, it was so easy and so clear to see what needed to be addressed in life. Like it was just, there was so much space, and it was like, you know, you had no choice but to really be present. And so when you're really present with yourself and your life and your relationships, there's so much clarity and power that comes around that, because there's nothing pulling you away from that, and you really, and like it's uncomfortable as fuck, I'm not gonna lie. Like some shit came through for me, and I was just like, oh my god, like how long has this been here for, that I've been ignoring this, you know,
avoiding it, distracting yourself.
But then I was like, okay, no, actually this is probably something that's been in minor ways showing up consistently, but I just have been too busy to really to face off with it. So it was powerful.
Yeah, awesome. So within like that 3 to 4 weeks basically, so what were your kind of biggest takeaways from doing your digital detox? What kind of really came up for you mostly? Oh my god, my arm's about to die.
I know, do you want me to take it? I'll
you
have a go. So I think definitely the connection, like I said, that was that was one of the biggest takeaways, was just really how important it is to stay connected in person and pick up the phone and just, you know, be a little bit more present in your relationships.
Yeah.
I think just letting go of the fear of creating space. Hey, Emma.
Hey, sister.
Yeah, just letting go of the fear of creating space. Like, I'm such a serial doer, and, you know, really was wearing busy as a badge of honor, and that was part
Which
of
so many women are guilty of.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I
Not guilty,
really deemed and defined my success by how busy I was. And, you know, being busy and being constantly, you know, going from app to event to, you know, work to this to catch up, like however you want to, you know, structure and that what it looks like for you.
Yeah.
You know, there is an element that makes you feel like, oh, well, I'm so busy, I must surely be moving forward. But it really doesn't allow any space for creativity and spaciousness to create in between those, and for messages to come through and downloads to come through. And if you're looking for an answer in your life, you can really only get that from space. You're not going to get it from jumping in from app to app to app and you know, rushing here and there and everywhere. And
stopping in the stillness.
Yeah, and I think, you know, it was really for me as well, like slowing down and really listening to what my body was asking. You know, I've been going to gym and doing weights and, you know, F45 and all of these things, you know, non-stop for, you know, over a year now. And then when I took that break, I was like, oh, actually, I kind of feel like I want to slow down and do yoga and, you know, go for walks more. And, you know, it's just about like, you know, it's easier to listen to the messages that are coming through for you and listen to your intuition and that inner knowing when there's space to hear it.
And not so much
noise.
Distracting you and telling you this is what you should be doing, this is what you should be doing.
And I think, you know, just for me, like I said, like as well, the other biggest takeaway was, I think, just about being really intentional about who you learn from and how you consume content, and you know, coming online in more of an intentional consumption way, like looking for that person, your mentor, whoever you're learning for, whoever inspires you, and actually going to their page rather than getting sucked in the vacuum, and, you know, giving yourself, you know, a time limit to sort of do that, or making that a really intentional choice rather than a reactive scroll where you can get really lost in a vacuum and you can really end up just absorbing so many different messages that doesn't really serve you.
And that in itself can be confusing, because you're like, but this person's saying this, but this person's saying this, and it's like, well, what's true? And you forget about connecting back into your truth and going, okay, well, this is what resonates for me. I really love this person and their message. But you know, you get so distracted by all the other people out there, all the other noise out there that you just forget.
And I think for me as well, like now it's about, I create, then I consume. So like do your post or do your creation, and then you can go about checking what everyone else is doing, because that's where that hesitation, I think I noticed as well, that's where those hesitations come through, because you're seeing another message or something and then you're like, oh, I was going to post about that, but now maybe I won't, and then you start to doubt yourself as well. So like you said as well, I think just tapping back into that truth and not being afraid to go inwards, and for me really stripping back the layers, you know, like I said, ditching coffee, ditching all these things that were like vices and security blankets and things, and just really getting down to what was really there, and just I think noticing
Veronica. Hi, Veronica. She's like just over there. Come join us.
I think just not being afraid of that, because I think I had been a little bit afraid of being present and still, and what that I'd made that mean, which was that I was slowing down or stopping or failure. And I think that was another really powerful realization as well.
Awesome. And I love that. Like, there's so much, and I would love to do a digital detox, but I have fear around it as well, especially with my business really building momentum at the moment. I'm like, but if I detox and if I'm not there, then it's going to fall apart. But it's so true what you say. It's like creating that space for more to be created, and you to kind of step even more into your truth and what is the message that you're trying to share. It's important. But I have started, like, I'm really making sure that when I'm present with when I'm with my family, I'm present with my family. That's a big thing. It's like being present in the moment as well. Like, you can still have social media in your life. It's how you're using it that's like the big thing, I think.
And I think that's for me as well. Like, you don't even necessarily need a break, but just to be aware of how you're using it and why. Like, I think that was a big thing for me. Is like, why am I going online now? What am I, what are my intentions here? And most of the time it was to distract, escape, or suppress.
cool. So anyone that is like thinking about digitally detoxing, what would your kind of key like little tips? Hey, we're watching you. Creep!
Yeah. Everyone's watching us.
Come and video us.
Yeah. So I actually did an entire blog post on this, so I'll leave the link in the comments for your audience. But I think just the main thing is to delete the apps off your phone, out of sight, out of mind. I think if they're on your phone, you're still going to be tempted, or actually just go into autopilot on them, and then before
Do you want me to take it back?
Yeah, before you're kind of realizing you're back on those apps. So I think definitely deleting the apps, and with the space that you now have, use that wisely. Use it to self-care, to reinvest in yourself, to like, for me, one of the things, like I said, I noticed that I'd slipped off my mornings, and like I wasn't using them for myself anymore, and I wasn't doing the things that made me good, which gave me the habits that made the good mindset, and all these sort of things that I'd kind of like slipped and regressed backwards. So just really taking that back and doing all the things that sort of make you feel good for you, and just being more present. Like I did so much play and really self-care, and was present with my partner, and we like went to Yamba for the weekend and all those sort of things. So just sort of like using that time to really reconnect to the relationships in your life, to yourself, and to whatever it is that's on your heart, and just being really like honor that and follow through.
Yeah, beautiful. I so need to do this with Facebook for a bit. Yeah. It does, and you don't even realize you're kind of slipping into those habits until something like this kind of pops up, and you're like, oh shit, I do that. Or grabbing for your phone as soon as you wake up in the morning. The last thing you do when you go to bed. Like,
put your phone in another room as well, like overnight, so that's not the first thing you do. That's one thing since coming back on. I don't engage in my phone at all until like probably after 9 a.m. after I'm at work. Because like I was trying to respond to DMs and reply to clients and all that sort of stuff like at the gym. So even the morning when I was trying to have that's my time, I was still using it to serve other people's needs rather than my own. So just really being a little bit more strict about your boundaries around that. It's like, no, I'm not going to be on until 9, and that's fine. I'm going to take this morning for myself. I'm going to set myself up in a really positive way so that I can go about the day, and then you can actually from that space be so much more present, engaged and loving in the people that you're there to help, serve, support, and the relationships in your life when you are full yourself and doing the things for yourself. And then I think for me as well, I've sort of just started not using my phone at night either. As soon as I come through the door, like phone's done. So so more just in the 9 to 5 realm of phone use now.
Beautiful, awesome. My husband needs to do this with bloody Eva. Yes, for sure. Emma's my sister. Hi Leslie. How you going?
Hey, gorgeous.
Cool. So as a little wrap up, is there anything else that you want to kind of share, or do you feel like you're kind of
I think just that message of not being afraid of space, and just knowing that you're not missing anything out. Like, when I came back online, like I was just like, oh, it's all still here. And like there was
much has changed.
Yeah, there was a few people that had obviously noticed that I, had been missing, but like it wasn't a detrimental hit on my business. It wasn't detrimental to my relationships. In fact, it improved my relationships, and it was really eye-opening. So I think, and that from that space, like I was, as I said, I was obviously able to clear some things that needed to be addressed, and also got some more clarity around the direction that I wanted to moving forward, and also just like completely like unwound my nervous system. Like apparently it takes like close to like 4 or 5 days off social media to actually for your nervous system to unwind to a normal level. I think like I heard Peter Kelly say that ages ago.
Jeez.
So I just felt so much more relaxed, grounded and present. So even whether you take a break and it's 2 days, 3 days, or you don't take a break at all and you just use reevaluate how you use the app, I think just being really mindful to your energy levels from that space. And I think just being really mindful about how you consume, why you consume, and just being really kind to yourself around that, and just allow yourself to really unwind, I think, and just be present to life. There's so much more than this.
Yes. Yes, like there's all of this. It's amazing.
It's a amazing extension, but not a replacement for life. Yeah.
Beautiful. Awesome. That's it. I feel like that was the perfect little wind up right there. Thanks. We're going to go back and join the other girls. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Kristen will tag that blog.
Yes, I'll add the blog post. It's like I did all like how to know if you need a detox, like ways to support yourself staying offline, what to do with the space, and then I also have a link to my learnings as well, so there's more information there.
Awesome. And you can tag your little, your page in there as well, so people know where they can find her and keep being inspired by this incredible, empowering woman.
Thank you,
Yay,
lady.
such a pleasure. All right, my loves, have a beautiful day.
Bye, guys.
We'll see you soon.